This week, we're working in the mountainous and incredibly beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah on the brand new South Jordan Middle School gymnasium floor. Join us for floored.tv. Hey everyone, it's Levi with floored.tv, and after taking a well-deserved weekend off, we finally arrived back at the brand new South Jordan Middle School. As you know, if you've seen the other videos in this series, we have finished the installation and now we're ready to start the finishing process. But before we can go any further, we need to run some sample tests on some of our material to make sure that the gray stain that's been chosen for this particular project is going to achieve the color that the customer is looking for. Now what they would like is a gray color that matches the pads throughout the gymnasium. And after running our tests, it looks like we've been able to match it pretty close. So at this point, we're ready to start staining the floor. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy this. Here's a shot of the floor before we started the process. Now that we've taped off the area that needs to be stained, we can get started. This process is not nearly as easy as it looks, and there's a lot of proprietary tricks and experience that goes into doing this. Stain is very unforgiving, and if you apply too much of it in one area, it'll be a lot darker than if you don't apply the same amount in the area just right next to it. So getting the color just right is very, very tricky. Time is of the essence when you're staining these 3-point areas. Now that we've got all 4 of the 3-point areas stained and the stain is dry, all we have to do is tack the floor before we put on our seal coat. Now when it comes to sealing a sports floor, this is one of the most important parts of this entire process. The seal itself is what helps block out the moisture from getting into the floor and holds in the moisture content that the floor currently has. It's a very unique balance, and anybody who has one of these floors or who has dealt with one of these floors knows that if you introduce too much humidity or direct water or standing water, for example, this wood can grow immensely. Now there's approximately 250 rows of hardwood working all the way across this gym, and if each one of those rows grows even just a 64th of an inch, this entire floor will grow about 4 inches overall, which is why the expansion gap that we've cut around the entire floor is so important. Now, not all seals are created equally, and there's a lot of different products that you can use nowadays to seal your floor, but I would never ever recommend using a water-based sealer. Always go with an oil-based sealer. They just work so much better, and introducing water-based sealers into floors of this size is a very risky process unless you really know what you're doing. When it comes to actually applying the seal coat, there's many different techniques and methods that you can use to actually achieve this. But for this particular product and this particular job, we've chosen to use an easy way. As you can see, the easy way just has a tank that's filled with finish, and then it simply runs out of the machine through some hoses in front of the applicator, creating a puddle. Then you simply just drag that puddle across the floor. This looks a lot easier than it really is. If you put on too much finish at any given point, or you leave a big ridge line down the side, when this seal dries, you'll be able to see it very, very clearly. Now we simply just work from one side of the floor back to the other side until we've eventually sealed the entire floor. This individual that you see here applying the seal coat, his name is Tim Egbert. He's been in the flooring business for over 30 years. And strangely enough, one of the first jobs I ever did back over 20 years ago, he was on the job, and that was the first time we ever met. It's amazing how fast time goes by. But in all these years that he's been doing these floors, he's done millions and millions of square feet of floor, and he's incredibly skilled with all walks of doing hardwood floors. From the installation of the subfloor and the hardwood to the sanding, game lines, and he can also do some of the most simple logo work all the way to some of the most intricate logo work. And nowadays, these logos are getting so complicated as the products that we use advance and get better and better and better over time, that doing these logos, it's not simple like it used to be. It's getting incredibly challenging. And there's so many different colors and other aspects involved that you really have to know what you're doing. And Tim really loves doing these floors, and I really enjoy being out on the road with him. He's a great guy. But as you can see, you just keep working back and forth on the floor, pulling the seal from one side of the floor to the other until the entire floor is sealed. This is a shot from the upper balcony that looks over the floor. It's a really incredible school. I mean, they spared no expense on this thing. These kids are so much luckier than my generation was. The middle school that I went to was built at about 1900, and by the time I got to that school in 1994, this thing was barely holding on. My entire junior high school would fit in this gymnasium. Now these kids, they have no idea how spoiled and how lucky they are. And this floor they're going to be playing on turned out absolutely amazing. I am so happy with this Aacer Power Sleeper system. It's a very silent, quiet system when you play on it, but at the same time the reflectivity is unreal. And working on this particular job, things went so smoothly. The general contractor, DWA, and the superintendent, Josh, on this job, they did anything that we needed, and they were always willing to help us out, and we worked together to solve problems to get the project done, and I'm so thrilled about that. And the school staff, the principal, and the architects were just right there with any questions that we had, and were always willing to just help us work through so that we could get the job done. Now that the seal coat's dried, we can simply tape off the game lines and start the painting process. Here's a center court shot across the entire gymnasium. And this is what the three-point key area looks like. The weather outside was absolutely beautiful on this day, and I just couldn't help myself. I had to take this shot and include it in the video. But I just want to remind everybody, you can simply go to www.floored.tv to see my YouTube channel. If you'd like to check us out on Facebook, it's just facebook.com/flooredtv. Check out our page. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out our future content. I'd really appreciate it. At this point, the game lines are all painted, the paint's dry, the tape's pulled, and we're ready to put another coat of finish on the floor. Here's a shot from the balcony. Here's a shot of the first court on the left side. The paint looks beautiful. Here's a shot down the center, side-by-side courts. So here's a couple shots of the finished floor. Man, this thing turned out beautiful. The game lines are just such a rich color, and the staining, the gray staining in the keys looks great with the blue color they chose. Wow, what a spectacular sight. So on that note, that wraps up this last video in this 3-part series documenting the installation of the gymnasium floor in the brand new South Jordan Middle School. I just want to thank Josh down at DWA for making things go so smooth. He was just right there with any questions that we had and anything we needed. He made this job an absolute pleasure, and we loved working with him. I also want to thank the principal of the middle school. He was an absolute delight as well, and just easygoing guy, and we just appreciate everything you did for us. And I also want to thank the architect on this project. This thing just worked out amazing. These kids have an incredible floor to play on, and we just can't wait to get started on the next one. So I just want to thank everybody for watching this series. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's going to be another short series coming up soon, so stay tuned. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day. I'll see you then.